Hi, I'm Michael Ordonia of the Los Angeles Times. Welcome to our very first Emmy Contenders chat of 2019.
No fun, no smiling.
That's right.
Yes.
Today we are graced by the presence of longtime So You Think You Can Dance host and 5-time Emmy nominee, Cat Deeley.
Hello, very nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Although I thought we said no smiling.
No smiling, no smiling and absolutely no fun. We're going to take ourselves very seriously. There shall be no irony, no sarcasm.
And you have to have documentation for all your answers.
Absolutely.
All right. Now that we've gotten that out of the way.
Yeah.
I can't count very well.
Uh-huh.
I think you've been hosting the show, 14 years, going on 15 this summer? Is that right?
Yeah, so we're going into 16 seasons, but we doubled up one season, and then I also didn't do the first season. So take away the number you first thought of, and I'm a grape.
That explains everything.
Clean as mud?
Yes.
Yes, clear as mud.
That's why on my SATs I just put grape and...
But yes, I've been doing it a very, very, very long time, and I'm very, very grateful. Because it's not very often you get to do a job that you love. And I go to work and I absolutely love it. I love the people I work with. I thoroughly enjoy the show. I hope it comes across how much I do enjoy it. And also, I love what the kids can do. I'm always amazed and in awe. And it never gets old to me because I can't do it. I've been asked that question loads of times. Can you dance? And I can't. But that doesn't make me not appreciate it when somebody does, and someone does it so brilliantly. I mean, they're like Greek gods, some of these kids, you know? They just do the most incredible things, and my mind explodes, and I get goose pimples and chills, and still, 14 years in, I get quite emotional about it.
Well, that answers a lot of questions right there, actually.
Sorry.
Oh, no. I was wondering how you could be doing this for that long and going into your 15th season and still appear to be enjoying it.
Yeah.
But I guess we now know the secret.
Yeah, and I think it's also you haven't seen it all. Just when you think that, you've seen someone flip 5 times and then do a backward somersault and somebody else goes and raises the bar higher, and then some of the kids work with the most incredible choreographers that have these insanely brilliant minds where they use reference points from everything from great pieces of art to literature to new music to whatever it is, history, whatever it is. So you get lost in these huge vortexes of amazing art. And when the right choreographer comes together with the right dancer, hair, makeup, music, sound, lighting, something magical happens sometimes, and it literally does make the hairs on your arms stand on end.
I just have to point out, when you said they sometimes refer to great works of art, you almost indicated our target painting.
I know, I did ask where it was from. I was like, I really like the colours in that painting. Where's that from? Target. I said, should I know it? But we probably should know it. If anybody out there knows who created this painting, or you are in fact watching the LA Times interview as the artist, please get in touch with us.
But also talking about referencing works of art, some of those routines get very, very complex. They're the one where there were statues that had a brief time to be alive before they turned to stone again.
Yes.
I think those are some of my favorites, the really conceptual ones.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are some incredible routines throughout the seasons, really, and it's so funny because our show is kind of strange because either you don't know we're on the TV and you don't even know we exist, or you are an absolute avid fan, you know all the dancers that have been on before, you can name all the routines. That one that you're referencing was Melanie Marco, and you know all the group numbers, and you know it's kind of polar opposites. Our show, it does this weird thing. But the people who are fans of the show, absolutely, they all have their favourite routines. And quite often it's with kids that have been contestants on the shows themselves and then have gone on to be choreographers, and the Travis Walls, the Dimitri Chaplins, those kind of people, you know. So
how about your favourite routines on the show?
Oh, I've got so many favourite routines. Because there was one that Wade Robson did called Ramalama, which was amazing. which was like they were all kind of dressed up like ghouls and ghosts and people that had come back from the dead. And it was an amazing, amazing routine. I always love Wade Robson's work. Mia Michaels does incredible routines. Travis Wall is always amazing. And for me, Travis Wall absolutely epitomizes our show. He was the guy who was on the show. He came second to Benji Schwimmer in I think it was season 2. And since then, he's gone on. He became a dancer, and now he's a choreographer too. And now he wins Emmys. I give him Emmys now, which is I couldn't be more proud, you know, when that happens. And it's just it's a great thing about the show that dancers can use it as a springboard to go wherever they want to go. And for some kids, that's going back home and opening a dance studio and being close to their family and all those kind of things. And then for other kids, it's going on to Broadway. I saw Mel in Hello Dolly with Bette Midler, and Mark went on tour with Lady Gaga. Jasmine is on tour with Beyonce and on the album cover. Twitch is on Ellen, Magic Mike. Like, there's no one has to get put into a box from being on this show. You can go and be whatever you want to be. Dream as big as you possibly can.
Well, speaking of Emmys, you've been nominated 5 times.
I've never won, though. I've never won. And last season, I did this thing where I allowed one of the dancers to jump over my head on live TV. Now, bear in mind that in a pair of heels, I'm approximately 6'2". This guy was, I think, 5'2". And in the dance routine that he did with Lauren, it was a Mandy Moore routine, actually. It was like a jazz routine, just a funky jazz routine. There was no story. It was just cool. He presses on Lauren's shoulders and split jumps over the top of her head. Now, Lauren is approximately 5'1". So he did this amazing split jump, and I said, wow, that was amazing. And Nigel said, what I'd really like to see is him do it over your head. And I was like, okay, maybe this will get me an Emmy. I think I even said it. And I backed up in my heels, and I thought, well, there's no way this dude is going to get... JJ's not just... he's bouncy, and he's springy, and he's truly athletic, but there's no way he's getting over my head. So I bent down a little bit. I don't know if I'm now out of everybody's shot, but I bent down a little bit and braced in the thigh region. And then he ran at me, but of course I hadn't thought to get over the top, he has to push. So basically the entire body weight and the velocity of him running at me as well is coming on my back. So he did it, he cleared me, I fell to the floor, still managed to hold on to my mic though.
If that's not worth an Emmy.
If that's not, I mean, and I got home and my husband said, you do realise he could have broken your neck on live TV. You were in 4-inch heels and you're 6'2". And I went, yeah, but girl's got to do what she's got to do to try and get that Emmy, right? That's it. I had to, so short of bribing somebody, I don't know what else I can do. Could you start a petition at the LA Times?
Well, I'd like to see Anthony Hopkins do that.
And he wouldn't. There's no way. Or De Niro.
Cowards.
Get out of it. They would never do it.
Okay, so preparing for this, I watched a lot of your stuff.
Did you?
Yes. And not to shine the apple too much, but what jumps out about you, what really separates you, is how, I want to say, real or authentic you seem when you're talking to people. You just seem really at home with them.
Okay.
You seem to be relating directly to them.
Yep.
Which is, it's lovely. It's not so shiny and polished.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm very rarely shiny and polished. My thing is, I actually really love people. I like finding out about them. I like knowing what makes them tick. I like hearing their stories. I like their sense of humour. I like hearing how people quite often, human beings can be pretty great. Most of the time. I know we were talking about everything else, politics and all the rest of it, but human beings can be pretty great. And I think sometimes when you hear people's stories and you hear about, things that they've had to obstacles that they've had to overcome, and how you transform that into something positive, and you put a twist on it, and they become stronger because of it, and you learn from it. I don't know, I just love people, and I like hearing about their backgrounds, and I like hearing their stories, and I like hearing when they have massive successes and when they have failures and all of those things. And actually, I wouldn't rather be anywhere else. I wouldn't rather be talking to anybody else apart from the person that I'm talking to right in that instant. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're not there with them, what's the point? And I think that's the most massive thing of all, is all anybody wants is to be listened to and to communicate with another human being on some form. Otherwise, we're just animals, aren't we, essentially? So it's finding out those things that make us all the same, that are universal, and I find it interesting. I like people.
It's going to make the interviewer tear up.
Just no smiles. No smiles and no fun. You can cry. I'll pinch you if you don't.
Can you think of one or two of those stories you've come across on the show that were particularly memorable to you?
I mean, there's so many. There's people who, for instance, let's take Twitch, for instance. He tried out on the show 3 times before we put him on the show. And he came from, not the most illustrious background, but he kept coming back and he kept trying harder. And it was just, the moment wasn't quite right for him. And when that moment came, you share in it, and then he's one of them. But I mean, there are stories where you turn around to yourself and you go, oh my goodness, why am I complaining when I get up in the morning? I have nothing to complain about. Some people, it's what they have to put up with in life, and it's purely down to geography. It's not down to, they just happen to be born in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's nothing to do with their actions. But somehow they manage to raise themselves above it and become more than they could ever envisage. And that I find very interesting.
Well, speaking of background and geography, I understand you came from a small town?
Yeah.
Sutton Coldfield, is it getting that right?
My mum and dad lived there, yeah.
I wonder if maybe that background has something to do with how you can still come across what you do. I mean, you've been a model, you've been on television forever, but you still don't come across as posh.
No, I don't. But I talk to everybody in the same way. I mean, there's I used to host a music show, so I sit and I do interviews with people, everybody from Beyonce to Prince to Paul McCartney to, so I've done that too. But the big thing is, everybody just wants to be listened to and heard and come across well and get their point across. And so it doesn't make any difference really who you're talking to. You just talk to everybody the same. And if you give, Beyonce the same gravitas as you give the normal kid that's auditioning on the show, then you're never going to go wrong. But I think that probably had something to do with it too. I'm a chatter. My mum was a chatter. I come from a long line of talkers. And also, I think probably I'm a little bit nosy too. Do you know what that phrase is? Nosy?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We have that. We Yanks say nosy.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably just do it a bit better. I'm incredibly nosy. I quite like finding out.
I want to ask you more about that town, but see, now you've mentioned that you interviewed Prince, and I've got to ask you how that went. Oh,
I loved it. Because I'd been a massive fan of Prince since I was a girl, since I was 10, I got all the albums and New Power Generation and Diamonds and Pearls and all the rest of it. And it was a pre-recorded interview, actually, because the show would go out live for 3 hours every Saturday morning. So he was coming in on the Friday night, and they'd said it was just at that time where he turned his name into a symbol, remember?
Yeah.
And so my producer said to me, you've got to ask him about his name. You've got to ask him about this symbol thing. What's this thing he's doing? And I was like, how do I ask? It's kind of like tricksy. Anyway, they said, no one can look at Prince. Don't make eye contact with Prince. Don't do this, don't do the other. And I'm always like, oh. how am I, like, you're creating this thing where the thing that I'm saying to you about just trying to connect with somebody, there were all these barriers that kept being put in the way. And so it's this weird thing where they have a team of people around them that are making it more difficult almost for them to just, for you to connect in some way. Anyway, I thought about it, and he came down and he sat down, he was being mic'd up, and I saw he got a pair of boots on, like snakeskin boots. And they must have had a heel on kind of like this, right? But it was Cuban. It wasn't so pointy, but and I sat down and they were micing me up and they were touching me up and they were doing things. I said, hey, did no one tell you you're not allowed to wear heels higher than me on this show? And he got sunglasses on and he kind of looked at me over the top of the sunglasses and then he laughed.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is gonna be okay. So we chatted, and then I was like, right, I've got to ask the question. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And there was lots of ridicule going on about it at that specific time as well, where it was like a whole, what do you mean his name is a symbol? And I said, listen, I said, I've got to ask you one more final thing before you go. I said, every night when I get in the car after doing rehearsal, I call my mom and I say, oh, this is what's been happening today and this is what... I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to say, Ma, you'll never guess who I spoke to today. I said, I spoke to... What should I say? And because I got pictures of him all over my wall. And he goes, looks over his glasses again and he goes, a new friend.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I asked the question and you were cool with it. And he was everything I hoped he would be. And he had a sense of humor and all of those things. And he's truly brilliant. It's a shame he's not around anymore.
And he thought on his feet in that interview too.
Well,
on his heels.
But
anyway.
but of course, because he's actually smart and intelligent. You couldn't write the kind of music that he wrote if he was. Yes, he'd retracted away from society a little bit, but he was always going to be smart and intelligent and you listen to his songs and they have a sense of humor, Trojans in the pocket, except like he's got a sense of humor. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks. I loved it. It was a moment that I absolutely loved.
Yeah, I wish I'd gotten a chance to interview him.
Yeah.
The heels line probably wouldn't work for me as well.
Probably not, but I took a risk though.
Yeah.
You have to take a little bit of a risk with people. It was the same with Marilyn Manson. He was being mic'd up, and I bounced into the room, and he must have thought, oh God, here we go, another blonde that's bouncing in, like you can imagine. But I really liked him. Like I loved all his artwork. I read like poetry. I really liked him. I thought he was very, very interesting. And I just knew he was going to give me the cold shoulder. He was literally going to have a wall up. And so he was being mic'd, and as he was being mic'd, I saw them open his suit, and the label was in his suit here. It was Comme des Garçons, and he did it back up. And we sat down and I went, it's a nice suit. And he went, thanks. I went, it's Comme des Garçons, isn't it? And he went, so there's ways, and it's always just to disarm people a little bit. And the minute you disarm people, all the armor kind of crumbles down a little bit and they become just people.
So now we know you're sneaky though.
I'm sneaky. Oh, yes, I'm sneaky. God, of course I'm sneaky. All the best people are. But in the right way.
Yes.
In the right way.
You didn't use your knowledge for evil.
No. No. Comme des Garçons is still in business. They're all fine. Marilyn Manson's okay. Yes.
Well, that's debatable.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you a little bit more about that town you came from.
Sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, it was great. I mean, do you think I'm going to stop you from talking about Prince?
Okay, good.
All right. So, small town. You've said previously that you were not popular in high school, which is kind of a strange concept.
No, not popular. I wasn't the cool kid. I was always the person that I'd talk and chat, but I was never cool.
You didn't have the reserve.
No. I was never emo. I got like a bad perm, and I was very thin and a bit gawky. But no, I absolutely had lots of friends, but just wasn't. I was never the cheerleader, to use terminology that you would
Yes.
use here.
Well, tall, blonde, and a lot of energy, but not a cheerleader.
No, completely uncoordinated.
Which explains why you don't open the shows with the dance.
100%. I just checked that you weren't in reach. Don't come any closer, otherwise you're in big trouble.
So what was that town like? What did people grow up in that town thinking they were going to do?
Well, there was all different. People grew up with all different ideas. I can only speak about when I was a kid, I wanted to host TV shows. That was
really?
when I was little. But like I'm talking 7. No, I originally wanted to be Julie Andrews. That was who I wanted to be. But Julie Andrews had Julie Andrews covered, so I could never do that. And then I was quite academic when I was at school. And so it was considered to be more sensible if I went down a more kind of traditional university route. I moved to a grammar school to go and do my A-levels. I did 4 A-levels, and then it was assumed that you would go to university because that was actually the sensible thing to do. You know, we all know that if you want to work in entertainment, it can be very hard to break into, first of all. The career can be actually very short. You know, the options are very much stacked against you. And so it was considered smarter for me to go to university and do those kind of things. And so but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to study English literature if I was going to study anything. But I didn't know what I wanted to do at the end of it. And then I won a model competition when I was like 14. And I'd go down during school holidays, like my big holidays, 6-week holidays. I'd go to London and go and work. I travelled to Japan when I was 16 and did that. And then so I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took a year out and I moved to London for a year when I was 18 and just kind of had a seat, just tried to get my head together really in some way, shape or form, travelled a bit. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was a friend of mine who was working at MTV at the time. And they said MTV UK was breaking away from the rest of Europe. It was essentially, you had MTV America and then you had MTV UK. I think it went to South Africa too, and Australia and Europe. But what they'd realised is you needed more people on the screen that people at home could relate to, that the audience could relate to. So they needed more people from England with accents and all those kind of things. So they were breaking away. And so I thought, well, at 7, I wanted to be a TV host. So I don't know, let's see. So I borrowed my mum and dad's camcorder and I made a tape that was like 3 minutes and I sent it in. And then I got called back for a million auditions and they kept calling me back and then they'd say, okay, you've 75% got it, you're just going to do this, or you've 80% got it. And then it got to, you've 99% got this job, but we're going to throw you live on air, almost like TRL, and see how you do. And so that was how I got my job.
I have like 1,000 more questions for you, but we're almost out of time. I have to throw the lightning round at you.
I'm sorry, I'm a waffler.
Are you kidding? You're doing great.
I'm a waffler.
You're doing wonderfully. All right, so as I warned you, lightning round. These are questions we ask everybody.
Okay.
And your answers all have to be correct, or you lose.
Okay. Is there a trap door under here or anything?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, fine.
It's going to be a surprise.
Okay.
All right, so what was the last show you binge watched?
Oh, my goodness. Last show I binge watched was, oh, my goodness, probably a Sex and the City rerun. I honestly, I've got 2 small children. I can't stay awake past like 8:30 is my maximum right now.
Okay. When you said small children, I just thought Sex and the City?
No. I have like a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old baby who's teething right now. So no, that was the last thing.
Yeah, you weren't going to exactly put on Game of Thrones with them in there.
No. And actually, I tried to watch. Why am I blanking? Where they wear the red with the white.
Handmaid's Tale?
Yes. I watched the first one. I bought the whole thing to watch, and I watched the first one while I was pregnant. I was like, no, absolutely not. We are not watching this, and this is not happening. So that was the last one I attempted to binge watch when I was pregnant and failed miserably.
That is not a good maternity show. No. Although I'm starting to think you and I should do like charades together.
I think we should.
All right, what classic TV show do you wish you'd been on?
Oh, a classic one, Magnum PI.
For the mustache.
Ooh, yes, but also because I had a terrible crush on Tom Selleck when I was a little girl. Really, really bad. I used to sit there. Sunday night was hair wash night in our house before I used to go to school, and I'd be like 4 years old, and I'd sit there in front of the TV with my legs crossed like this, watching Magnum PI like that, and I'd be like, Mommy, Magnum PI is such a lovely man. Weird.
Is that weird?
Well, it is for a 4-year-old.
Oh, you're
Slightly odd.
Well, okay, we've actually already talked a little bit about your first acting jobs. Okay, what was your worst job ever? And not just in acting, your worst job.
Worst job ever? You know what? I've never really had. I'm a believer in no matter how bad the job is, you can always learn something from it. Mm-hmm. I worked in a pub for a while, and it was always quite hard if the rugby guys were all playing or the footballers were all playing. And it was always a bit like, oh, there's a match on today, I'm going to get loads of grief. And it's, But you know what? It stood me in pretty good stead sometimes. You know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it would always be like, oh, there's a match on today, I hope they don't lose, and it's going to be, oh. But it would always work out in the end.
Got ugly in there if they lost?
Only if I beat them at arm wrestling. Or spitting. No, joking.
That'll be on the next one. All right, did you ever watch Sopranos or Breaking Bad?
No.
See, this question is just not going to work for them.
No.
Sopranos prequel or Breaking Bad sequel. How about, is there any show you can think of that you'd like to see a prequel or sequel show for? Game of Thrones doesn't count because they're doing prequel shows.
I still like Sex in the City. You give me that any day of the week. I would like to see the one where they first moved to New York. There was a snippet in the movie where they showed like a flashback, but I'd love to see when they first moved to New York as a series.
I thought they weren't they going to do
I don't know. They're all falling out with each other, I think.
Oh. All right, you have admirably answered all of the lightning round questions, and you get a huge prize that we'll give you later.
That was so shifty. that wasn't even. I'm not a natural blonde. And can I take the painting?
Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank
you. It was really
you.
a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
You can watch this whole thing as many times as you want on latimes.com, I think.
If you can't sleep at night or something like that, if you need to, you can't ask people to watch this again.
Well, they can run it at different speeds. They can run it backwards. See if your Marilyn Manson
This will be really fast.
Your Marilyn Manson stuff might have different meanings if they run it backward.
Oh yeah. Okay. Fine. Good. Try it. You might like it.
Thank you, Cat Deeley.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.